Holy smokes. Good evening, everybody. It is November the 3rd. It is finally November. Oh my goodness. We are officially past Thanksgiving season. It is officially the Christmas season. I was at Costco yesterday. Christmas stuff out the wazoo. Where else have I seen Christmas stuff? Oh, we went to get our flu shots for the winter, and Christmas stuff everywhere at the place that we went to get our flu shots. So happy official Christmas season, at least for my fellow Canadians up here. I am just getting this out of the way. I am a man who went to a World Series game on Friday night, and I saw a ball get stuck in a fence, and for 1/10 of a second of my life, I thought I was going to watch the baseball team from my hometown win a World Series. And then the guy next to me, he was really nice all night long. He was the nicest guy in the world. Said hi when we sat down. You know, him and his, I'm assuming, girlfriend. They were great. A lot of fun. And he was like, nope, that's not how this works. That's not baseball. That's going to go the other way. It's going to be a ground rule double. Because he didn't touch it, he didn't try to play it, he just called for the umps, and it's, ground rule double. And then 3 minutes later, the game was over. 3 pitches later, probably less than 3 minutes. It felt like 10 minutes, but it was like, no, actually, it felt like 10 seconds. But it ended real quick. But I think I've made myself feel a little better over the last 48 hours because I didn't go Saturday. And I feel really bad. My oldest friend in the world, God love him, great dude. He sent me a message on Saturday afternoon. And he said, it was a picture of himself on a GO train. And he goes, "You inspired me. I'm going to the game." And I went, okay, I'm jealous. But okay. Unfortunately, he went to that game on Saturday night. Look, I mean, this is a hockey show, so if you're not a baseball fan, I get it. Hockey season's in full swing, and there's a lot going on, and not everybody here is from Toronto. But I cannot begin to tell you. I've lived in Toronto my whole life. I can't begin to tell you how, what this meant to Toronto and what the vibes were like. Like Friday night, I'm telling you, something AJ loves to complain about, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but something AJ, my beloved producer, who will be back in a few weeks, one thing that he loves to point out is that Leaf fans love misery. It seems like they are always on a razor's edge of complete and total chaos and misery. And you know what? Me being a little older than him, I understand why completely. And he's more optimistic and yada, yada, yada. So good for him. But that was not the case on Friday night. The Toronto Blue Jays had the full support, 1,000% from the first pitch right up until that last moment. The place was insane. I have never been to a sporting event quite like that. It was worth every penny. Even now that I've had some time to digest what I saw and what happened, it was worth every penny. I cannot believe how many times that team had the chance to win a World Series. There were 2 moments last night where I was 100% convinced it was going to be over. And there was a moment Friday night when I was there that I was going to see an incredible last-second walk-off triple or something crazy like that. And it just was not meant to be. The crazy thing, this is the crazy thing, and I'm doing this while people file in, it's a bit of a chaotic show tonight, but, it is what it is. But the thing that really blows my mind is that I believe I'm probably not going to get the stat perfectly right, but the LA Dodgers in the World Series batted something like 208. Like they barely, I don't even think they got to the Mendoza line as a team, and they won the World Series. I think it is the lowest batting average of a World Series winning team ever, if not in an extremely long period of time. Like this, I don't know how you would mathematically show this, and I might just be saying this because I'm from Toronto, but like that might be pound for pound the most heartbreaking, tough, like close but no cigar championship loss in any sport ever. Maybe. Like game 7, bottom of the 9th inning, bottom of the 10th inning, like all the pieces were there multiple times in multiple games, and it just didn't happen. I had the pleasure of watching Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitch last night or Friday night. That I was sitting up in the 500s, and I still could just tell he was a machine. He's a robot. Every single pitch, I would have absolutely no idea what was coming. Just from his delivery and from whatever. He just was a machine. I'm sure he's not human. It was just an unbelievable thing. I usually watch playoff baseball. I said this on the last show. But like playoff hockey and playoff baseball are like two different kinds of like elite professional sports for me. Like there's tension in baseball, unlike any other sport. And there is excitement in hockey, unlike any other sport. And I can't watch baseball during the regular season. It's just too much for me to keep up with. And like, I'm not judging baseball fans at all. I totally get it. It's just not my cup of tea during the regular season. But I watched, I think, every single Blue Jays playoff game this year. And I don't know. I'm very, very thankful that I got to go to the World Series. You know, now that it's been a few days, look, I mean, if you have the means, it is worth doing if you can. It is and I mean, look, like it was just insane. And I obviously the disbelief, I think, from the entire city over the course of the entire weekend is immeasurable. It was absolutely I was gobsmacking. I was speechless. And I had a friend who actually works for the CBC. Well, I still have a friend. He's still my friend. Nothing happened over the last 3 days. But he had to work Saturday, and but he was telling me, we went out for dinner last week, and he was saying, hey, like I work for CBC News. He was telling me what the whole party was going to be like if the Jays won Friday or Saturday. They had a whole thing. CBC had this like massive series of documentaries and features and men on the street, women on the street, like type interview things, like speakers corners style things set up all over downtown Toronto. It was going to run until 2 a.m. Like it was this like insane production that they just never got the chance to do because just that last 1 meter of the 100-meter dash could not go over the finish line, and somehow the Dodgers found a way to win. I cannot believe it. It is a hard thing to explain. If you're not a baseball fan, if you're not from Toronto, it is a surreal, like there was no anger. There was no even sadness. It was just pure disbelief. And I don't know how else to describe it. It was the talk of the town, and still arguably is. How they were able to just not quite get it done. And like there are people who are like, oh, it's this guy's fault and this guy's fault and this guy's fault, and like maybe, but that's sports, man. Like sometimes something that's 1 in a billion happens, like a ball getting stuck in the fence, not rolling into it, you know, not bouncing off of it, but literally stuck in the fence. Sometimes that happens, 1 in a billion. Sometimes a 1 in a billion thing happens 4 times. That's just sports, baby. That's just how this goes. Sometimes the team that may seem to deserve a win does not get one. And as hockey fans, don't we all know it as well? Like, if there is ever a sport that is as fickle as it gets and as weird and stupid and silly and crazy as it gets, it may very well be ice hockey, where human beings strap blades onto their shoes, run around on an ice surface shooting a little tiny rubber puck, rubber disc with wooden, well, now I guess graphite, but traditionally wooden sticks into a net, and do so while trying to beat the hell out of each other. What a ridiculous sport that is. And I mean, look, sometimes the good teams lose, right? Analytics are a thing that can show a team is good, but it doesn't always show a team is going to win. And what was the game the other night? I think it was San Jose, LA, where like the deserve to win-o-meter was like 92% in the favor of LA, I think, and the Sharks won. Like, that stuff happens all the time. You know, and in baseball, sometimes balls get stuck in the fence, and sometimes the catcher lifts their foot an inch off the plate, and the guy sliding into home plate an inch away, and look, last thing I'll say about this before we move on and get into the chat here, you know, and start having a little discussion about the sport that I'm here to cover and that I do my job with. I am at least thankful that there was, I think I mentioned this off the top, a 1/10 of a second period at the end of that game on Friday night. There was a 1/10 of a second where everybody except the guy standing next to me thought the game was over. They thought that was an inside the park home run because the guy didn't bother playing it, and then he did play it. And like, anyway, it was very confusing. And most people, I think, in that stadium weren't particularly familiar with that specific rule, because when would that ever happen? And in that 1/10 of a second, the Blue Jays won the World Series, or at least were pushing things to extra innings. But in a lot of people's minds, that was it. Inside the park home run, 3 runs, game over. Popcorn flew everywhere. Beer, water, cut water, soda pop. It was jubilation in my, like, the popcorn must have been $12. $600 of popcorn went flying around in my section in that little 1/10 of a second period. And that was it. And then it was taken away. It didn't, you know? Anyway, it was a great experience, though. I'm very glad I went. The better half was the push off the side of the plane with the parachute on, you know? She's like, just do it. You know, we're just going to do it. We'll deal with the problems later. And then kicked me off the plane with a parachute on. So thanks to her as well, because I don't think I don't know. Maybe I would have made that decision on my own, but I don't know. There was less certainty for sure, and so I'm very glad. It was a hell of an experience, for better or worse. You could just feel it in the building, and again, look, for anyone who says Toronto has the worst fans ever or whatever, it's wrong. You're wrong. I don't know, man. Toronto showed up for the Jays when they were down in that game 3-1. The fans weren't crying about it. They weren't sulking. They weren't booing. They weren't nothing. They were doing nothing but going crazy. So anyone who says that, you know, Toronto is blah, 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 no. I think it's just that Toronto people, not that other cities don't know this, but Toronto people know when to get behind a team. They can smell it in the air. They just feel it in the air. They're like dogs in their sense of smell. A Toronto sports fan and knowing when a sports team is worth getting behind. And our time is precious here in this city because we spend so much of it in traffic, you know? And unfortunately, it just was not meant to be. But I will never, ever, ever listen to anybody who sasses Toronto sports fans for not being exactly what they were on Friday and Saturday throughout this entire playoff run. Unbelievable. I mean, I don't know. I can't say enough. I could talk for hours about this because it was just unlike anything I had ever seen in my life, anything ever. And I mean, I hope it's not another 30-something years before the Jays get back into the World Series. But that was a special group of people, a special team. I don't know, man. Pretty wild. pretty wild. But anyway, this is a hockey show. It's been 19 minutes, a little less, I guess, 15 or so, because I started a little late. I was busy making homemade fast food tonight, and we had a bit of a crazy commute-esque scenario to deal with. But anyway, it's all done. We're dealt with. We're here. We're here to talk. And yeah, so before we get into the chat questions, I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Well, not housekeeping necessarily, but really just going over who we have done in the last few days, because it's been Thursday. So yeah, okay. I don't think I've mentioned these players before. I might have mentioned Marcus Nordmark on Thursday, but I did a game of Marcus Nordmark. I did a game of Jonas Lagerberg-Hohen. I did a game of Xavier Villeneuve. A game of Adam Gaulier. A game of Landon Hafley. That was it. I listened to the commentary this time. I now know what I'm doing. I now know how to pronounce his name. Landon Hafley. That's what the commentator said. So if it's wrong, don't take it up with me. Mons Gudmundsson was the guy this morning, first thing. Ty Bonkowski. Kelowna. No, not Kelowna. The other K. Kamloops. Right? Yes, Kamloops. We also got Beksultan Makish. I got a game of him done. The Kazakh kid in Windsor. That was a lot of fun. I did a game of Tobias Tomik, Vancouver Giants import from Slovakia, who I had in my notes from last year. I did a game of Brek Liskey, if anyone knows who that is. Everett Silvertips defenseman. David Sod, a treasured member of our community, definitely knows who that is, because he seems to think he told me about him months ago. I refuse to believe that that's true, because David is a liar sometimes. So yeah, we're just going to move on. And then the last one I did today was just a trademark Scouching Incorporated, I guess technically Fractal Hockey Corporation, but Scouching Incorporated trademark player, Braden Thompson. Braden Thompson, Youngstown defenseman. Did Ben Kindle just score? My sister's actually at the game with a friend who is a Penguins fan, so maybe yeah, all right. I'm gonna just respond here. One moment. My sister's actually at the game. So if Ben Kindle scored for my sister, then he knows how to make me happy. The boy knows how to bring joy into my life, because also it seems like he's sticking around, which, man, if you told me that this is what was going to happen in June, I would never have believed you in 1,000 years. Now, if you had told me that Kyle Dubas was going to draft Ben Kindle higher than people thought, I would have told you that's possible because I called it. But hey, here we are. I have seen a little bit of him with Pittsburgh, and he is a riot. I love this kid. I think he's just fantastic. And you know what? The Penguins have jobs open. He seems to have earned it. He seems to be keeping it. What more could you want? I mean, unbelievable stuff. I don't know. You love to see it. But yeah, so that's the list of guys since Thursday. Nordmark, Lagerberg-Hohen, Villeneuve, Golier, Hafley. Got it. Gudmundsson, Bonkowski, Makish, Tomik, Liskey, Thompson. This week probably will be me going through a lot more guys a second time. After last month, I've kind of whittled down the list of guys I want to circle back on right away. Earliest of season contenders for reports at the end of the year. So we're going to start circling through those guys again. I mean, Gaulier is my second game of him, and he might be a guy that is he in my first round, because he is not far out of it at this point. I know that might sound insane to people. Yeah, he's not in there now, but boy, was that ever a good game. And I'm not sure if the Discord members who were watching that game with me are in here right now, but they can back me up or call me a liar if I'm lying or they think I'm lying. But yeah, you know, good stuff. Good stuff from him. I loved him. Every time I've seen him, he's caught my eye and he's been good. So let's get into the chat here. Let's do this. Let's have a discussion for the next hour and a half or so, before I go back up to the mess that I left my kitchen in before doing this show. How are the Penguins good? That's an extremely good question. I mean, you've got Sidney Crosby on your team. That's number one. And let's see here. Pittsburgh. I don't even really know who's on that team. Ryan Shea, Erik Karlsson, like who's leading the scoring on that team? Yevgeny Malkin is their leading scorer. What year is it? I thought he was cooked. I mean, well, Justin Brazeau being a point a game, color me surprised. I don't know where that again, Kyle Dubas, that's a guy Kyle Dubas signed way back in the day for the Marlies, and he was a guy, but hey, they found a job that works. Anthony Mantha, like finisher, like he's a finisher, a capable finisher. Brian Rust has always been a pretty solid player in his own right. I don't know how Chris Letang is still going. That blows my mind. Philip Hollander, another Kyle Dubas went out and got him. It's almost like a lot of the guys Kyle Dubas has liked over the years are actually pretty good. They just couldn't get their way into the Toronto lineup. But now that they're playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're at the top of the division or whatever, right? So, maybe there's something to this Kyle Dubas guy kind of, knowing what he's doing a little bit. Who would have thought, eh? It's really too bad. Oh, they've added, they got like Blake Lizotte down the lineup too. I've always liked him. Connor Dewar, former Toronto Maple Leaf, look, the Toronto Maple Leafs were a playoff team almost every year with Kyle Dubas there. And they did it with guys like Connor Dewar down the lineup, with guys like Philip Hollander in the system, I don't know. But in all seriousness, also, like, I've always liked Dan Muse as a coach, and like ever since he was with was it the Chicago Steel? Yeah, that was the one. Like way back in the day when he was with Chicago, and then he went to the NTDP through those golden years of the NTDP. I mean, his track record is sparkling. And so for the Penguins, he's exactly the type of thing. Look, I'm not going to lie. I glaze Kyle Dubas, but it's exactly the type of hire that I would make if I were him, where it's like, you don't just hire the guy everybody wants. You don't just hire, the big name that has coached 1,200 games. That doesn't automatically make them the right pick for the team. A guy who's dealt with young players for a long time, a guy with a long coaching history where he's never really been a head coach outside of the NTDP in Chicago. But outside of junior hockey, he, as far as I can tell, has never been a head coach. With Yale, he was an associate head coach, but always junior hockey head coach. So putting him in a position to be, putting him in the position to be an NHL head coach at the age of what? Like, he's not much older than me. He's 43. That's just amazing. And so I fully believe that there is a level of organizational synergy going on there. It just seems to make a lot of sense. He was with the Predators through those good years in 18, 19, 20. Was that one of the years they went to the Stanley Cup final? I don't remember. But, World Junior gold medalist, under 18 gold medalist. I mean, those teams were extraordinarily good, but, still takes a good coach to do good. And clearly so far this season, through 14 games now, 13, 14 games, the Ducks or the Penguins are doing pretty good. Pretty good. How about my boy Cameron Schmidt? Yeah, Schmidt's good, man. He's cooking. Yzerman's going to regret passing away his third-round pick. Well, I mean, I think it's a little too early to make accusations about urinating a draft pick away. I think it's a little too early for that, but I don't even remember who they picked in the third round this past year. I'm gonna have to log into my Elite Prospects account here and pull it up, because I don't remember who it is. No, it wasn't Jan Borg. I know you didn't mean fourth round pick, because they took Sverchek, and even though he's only played like 6 total minutes this year in the SHL, I refuse to believe he's bad. Drafts. Where is the drafts page? There it is. 2025 Detroit Red Wings. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, Pradell? He's a pretty good goalie. I mean, Schmidt, the thing about Cameron Schmidt is like his ability to score in junior hockey is never, ever, 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 ever going to be in doubt. Like Cameron Schmidt, as much as I love him, he's going to be one of these guys where even if he scores 300 points this year and 180 goals, like I'm still going to be like, this is a bit of a question mark. That said, like where he got drafted was a joke. You know, that's kind of a joke. Like to me, you know, Pradell going to the USHL again, you know, putting up some pretty good numbers this year so far. You know, look, it's a goaltender. I liked him last year. I thought Pradell was pretty good. You know, I don't know enough about goaltenders to know if it was a good or a bad pick there. I probably would have wanted Cameron Schmidt instead. I had him ranked pretty high because it's worth the bet. But I mean, look, with Cameron, there's like a lot going on there that, you know, on and off the ice that are things that are percolating that you know, mixed messaging to teams, I would say, that caused that kind of a drop. But generally in cases like that, the overcorrection is an overcorrection and then some. So yeah, you know, it's just the way it's the way she goes sometimes. You know, again, it's that at what point is this player just a good bet? And generally it's the small guys with a lot of skill and a lot of speed and a lot of tenacity and a lot of this and a lot of that who NHL teams go, yeah, but it won't work in the NHL. And teams go, yeah, but the odds are probably better than all these other guys. Like, okay, in the third round, like, you know, if he's the fourth guy we add, then I'm thrilled, right? And for Dallas, he's the first guy, and they didn't have a first or a second or whatever, right? So, yeah, pretty good. Baseball is cool. I agree. The Jays are cool because they have an entire country behind them. I agree. The Jays were cool, man. They were a cool team. They had all kinds of stuff going on there. They had like Chris Bassett, who looks like a dad, dropping his kids off to school, who was awesome. Like the Shane Bieber pickup, the injured pitcher who seemed pretty okay, you know, but, you know, gave up a home run the other night. But other than that, you know, Max Scherzer was on the team, which like 24-year-old me would be like dumbfounded by that. But, you know, here we are. And he was pretty good. Kevin Gausman. I'm a sucker for pitchers. I was actually up late last night watching YouTube compilations of submarine pitchers. And if you don't know what a submarine pitcher is, go look it up because the world needs more submarine pitchers. The world needs more Shinsuke Watanabes and Junghyun Kims and who are some of the other ones? Kazuhisa Makita, I think was the other guy. Anyway. That's what I do on a Sunday night, by the way. That's what I'm doing. I smell a little bit like vegetable oil. I don't like that. It smells weird. Anyway, but yes, the baseball is cool, but in the playoffs. Regular season baseball, I can't do it. I'll go to a game, you know. I'll go to a game, no problem, but I'm not a huge follower, so to speak. I know some of the names, but yeah. IMO would have and still was bigger than the Raptors. Thoughts? I think so. I mean, the Raptors thing was insane because, like, it was a project. Like it was like the team was so obviously going for it. You know, you knew the Kawhi Leonard thing was just for the year, probably, and it was like the Manhattan Project, getting that team to the NBA Finals. And I mean, look, I would argue, looking back on it, it's crazy to me that, at least in Toronto, from my perspective, the thing that everybody remembers is, yeah, winning the championship, but the Kawhi Leonard shot at the end of that Philadelphia series. That is an iconic sports moment that kind of overshadows the finals to me. This, with the Jays, every game basically was a storyline. It was the Yankees series was a banger, and the Mariners series was a banger, and the World Series was like a banger cubed. Like it was like a a bangers, banger. Every game. We got 8 World Series games, technically, which is bananas to me. I don't know. I mean, the Raptors run was really incredible. And I mean, go look at the pictures of the parade. I was there and it was ridiculous. But if the Jays did it, if the Jays this year pulled that off, like, I can't tell you how many people got on board and got on board pretty early. Like, I watched the Yankees series. I saw them and I went, wow, this team is actually pretty good. I thought the Yankees were kind of like star-studded and like, but the Blue Jays are, jeez, this is a little out of control. Who are these guys? And then it just kept going and going and going. I even gained an appreciation for the Mariners, man. Like the Seattle Mariners are also a very, very fun baseball team to watch. Like, I honestly, like, if the Mariners had won that series, I probably would have been a little upset because it's not the Jays, but like, they were good. They're a good group, and it was a lot of fun to watch them. But like, that Jays team, man, there was, again, like the Manhattan Project, but the Manhattan Project, if it started 3 months before the end of the war, like, ridiculously quick pickup and universal pickup pretty much across the entire city. It was insane. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Do you think the NHL should stop at 32 teams? That's a very good question. I don't think so. I think that the NHL should have as many teams as they can handle. I think that there is enough hockey talent out there that we can probably make it work. Like, the thing I think too, the other thing I think is that, I mean, mathematically speaking, when you go from, say, 32 to 34 teams and have an expansion draft for those 2 teams, you are adding a player from every team, but not all those players are going to make it. So it's like, if you take the worst player from all 32 teams, you know, you're not taking as much away from the league as if you were taking the worst player from everybody if there were 16 teams in the league. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if there were only 16 teams and then we expanded 2 teams, those 2 teams coming in, the level of quality in the league, like, it would be pretty straight. Like, I'm losing my train of thought here, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, the overall number of players in the league expands by a smaller percentage with the more teams you have. So by that measure, like, the amount of talent in the league doesn't fundamentally shift all that much. Like, instead of the top 400 players in the league, if you have 20 teams and it's like the top 800 or top 400 players in the world, and you go to the top 800 players in the world, that's obviously a huge difference. But now we're at like the top 650-ish, and another 2 teams will be going to the top 700. And like, is that really that much of a difference? I don't really think so, especially because the NHL is like the most socialist league in the world, where the difference between the highest paid players and the lowest paid players is pretty relatively small. And like, the lowest paid players in the league make, relative to other sports, like a pretty good amount of money if they're in the NHL. Other sports are not nearly that much for varying reasons, but you get what I'm saying. So, I mean, what I would say is I think you would need to change how the playoffs worked. Like, I think the NHL is very overdue for a bit of an overhaul of how the schedule works, and 84 games is not the solution. Like, I would be very interested in just rethinking it completely with a much shorter sort of regular season, and then a split. If you have that many teams, I feel like a split postseason would be very interesting, where you have like teams that make the playoffs and teams that are competing for their draft slot or something like that for the last 15 games of the year, right? It's like the top teams fight for playoff seeding, the bottom teams fight for whatever, and then your playoff, you go from there. I'm just spitballing off the top of my head, but I feel like if you do add more teams, you're going to need a little bit more almost segmentation and a little bit more like regional focus, I guess you could say, and have the league itself be more like I don't know. I'm going to use a phrase I don't even understand. Structurally discombobulated, if you know what I mean. Like kind of all over the place, but like regional focused, and it all kind of like bleeds into some sort of large thing at the end of the year. I'm just making it up as I go here. But I don't know. I feel like the NHL can sustain as many teams as they can financially sustain. But that being said, I don't think there are that many places that financially could logically make a team work. But like, I don't know. Maybe Houston? Maybe. I don't know. I don't live in Texas. I don't know what kind of hockey fandom there is there. I mean, Dallas probably was not a thing, really, when they first got a team from Minnesota. So who knows, right? I don't know. I mean, Seattle getting a team makes sense. I don't know. But like, there is a big financial ask, and a requirement from the arena to run an NHL team. And I mean, look at what happened in Arizona, right? Like, they're still trying to find someone to pick up that trademark and bring back the Coyotes, and there's like, you haven't heard a peep. There's nothing, right? Americans are richer than ever, and you're not hearing a whole lot about my cryptocurrency fortune being used towards starting an NHL team. It's just not really on the table very often. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. Are you going to watch any of the U17s from Nova Scotia? Yes, I'm covering the Canadians and the U.S. teams for Puck Preps. I'm going to get into that probably a couple days from now, when the tournament's a little further along. Generally, I just like to go back and watch the games after they've been put up and all that stuff, and just bang through it and make all the thoughts fresh all the time. But I am going to watch it. It is going to happen. Who would you like the most out of these projected OHLers between Logan Howery, Carter Hicks, and Alex McLean? Well, I've seen the first two the most. They're very different. Like, Hicks is intriguing. Like, I like his sort of skating ability. He's just sort of very skating heavy, and I feel like he hasn't quite found out a role that really fits him. Like, I feel like he has some of the tools to lean a little more offensively, but he doesn't really do it. He's got a bit of those physical tools, but doesn't really find a whole lot of success there. But that's not to say I don't like him as a player. Like, he's on my list. I've tracked him. I think he's okay. I have another game to circle back on because he didn't play much in the game that I did. So I'll check it out again. Check him out again. Howery, I haven't seen as much of, but I will. McLean, I've seen like nothing of this year. I saw a bit of him last year at the U17s and with Guelph, and kind of had mixed feelings on him. Howery, I wonder about as like a projectable player, considering his size, at least from the last time I saw him. But, I mean, an intriguing player nonetheless, and will be worth a watch. I actually forgot that Howery was a thing, and McLean I haven't seen much of yet, but Howery I'll check back in on soon. What was the homemade fast food? I made burgers and fries, man. I don't usually make homemade French fries. I don't know why I did it, but I felt like it. I guess I just never really use vegetable oil, and if maybe I woke up this morning and was like, you know what, I feel like I need an excuse to use a lot of vegetable oil, because that's a normal thought that people have. I did. I mean, I don't know. After the weekend this whole city just had, I think comfort food also just made a lot of sense. And so threw some burgers on the griddle, made some French fries, put some, what's that seasoning salt I used? It's the kind that they use on A&W French fries. It begins with an L. It's a seasoned salt. I forget what it's called, but it is so good. It is so good. Hot tip. You boil the fries first. I don't know if this is a common thing, but the hot tip is you make the French fries, boil them first, and get them like slightly fork tender, but not quite, and then toss them in the oil then. Because then you get like that soft inside and like a crispy outside. Mwah. It's the best. It rules. Have you watched Dickinson much? Clearly getting sheltered, but he's been successful. His game last night was very impressive. I have not really seen much of Dickinson. I do want to. I saw that he scored his first goal last night. Hey, just burying one. Good for him. Very good. doing what he does best, floating in from the blue line and getting into the middle of the ice and pounding one into the net. That's what he does. But yeah, with Dickinson, the thing about him is like the fundamentals of his game were never really in doubt in terms of projectability to the NHL. It's just like how he applied them and like the finer details of the NHL that were a bit more of a question mark for me. And that sort of work rate that the NHL kind of often requires, especially of defensemen. But hey, I trust you. I have no doubt in my mind that he is a solid player, lots and lots and lots of ability. And yeah, good for him. If that, good for him. Look, being sheltered on that team, probably the right play, but we'll see where it goes. Interesting player. And yeah, I do want to check him out, though. I haven't yet, though. Yes, I know. We all know David is a liar, yes. It was rage bait. Yeah, I got baited. Golier is elite. Yes, I know he is. Okay, so you were there. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it was you. Got it. Cool. I have no clue what you saw in the half Halley game we watched, but the Golier game was insane. Yeah, I agree. The Hafley game, he's going to be interesting. Like, I think he's a guy who will be a mid-round pick, something like that. Second, third, maybe fourth, something like that. I don't know. Because I feel like he probably should be in college. Like, I'm not sure why he's in the USHL right now when a teammate of his, like Lincoln Kuhn last year, went to Arizona State this year. Like, Hafley clearly has skating ability and skill beyond the USHL, and he's almost an eligible guy for last year's draft. And for me, the thing I think back on is like, where would I have Hafley if it was 2025, right? Like, because he's a couple of days, he's like 2 days younger or something than like Harry Nancy, for example. Elite OHL scorer Harry Nancy, I should mention. And honestly, Hafley, like, I wouldn't have him ahead of guys like Reshny, Schmidt, Reed, Mooney, like Riker Lee, Gustav Hillstrom. He'd probably be in my second round, early second. And that's probably where he might end up in my list towards the end of the year. Like, he's late first right now, but that range is really, really mushy to me. There's a lot of guys in there that I feel are nowhere close to settled. I think it's about time this year that I do my first ranking mix-up of the year where I run it through that program I built where it's like, do you like this player or this player? Scores them all, runs through the whole list, and then reorders the players based on that, and then I sort of fiddle with it afterwards. It's about time I do that. Maybe I'll do that tonight after the show and after I tidy up the mess I made and I'm sitting on the couch, despairing about what was it? Never mind. We're not gonna get it. We're not gonna get into that. We're not gonna get into the despair of the global financial market. But anyway, it's more fun to do the ranking thing anyway. Also, by the way, speaking of distractions, Simpsons Fortnite. If anybody ever dabbles in Fortnite and is a millennial like me, you probably should get it and download it and play this season. It is awesome. It is prime video gaming. It is, I'm a sucker for The Simpsons. It raised me. Probably spent as much time teaching me about the world as my parents did. So the idea of like being Marge Simpson running around in Ned Flanders' house, blowing things up, and I have been role playing as Bender Bending Rodriguez lately in this season, and Bender in the Springfield universe is pretty wild. The Mr. Burns' manor that they built is really cool. It's a great map. It's really fun. So, and I was on there last night, and I think there was like 500,000 people playing at once, which is just insane. So I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. The weapons loadouts are a little old school. Like, it kind of reminds me of like early seasons of the game where they're like frustratingly inaccurate, but like really fun. And yeah, it's really, really good. If you haven't played it yet, it's a lot of fun. I forget where that came from, Oh, the ranking tool, right, and what I'm doing at night these days. Right. I have Hermanson extremely high. Love the skill, deceptiveness, speed, high in creation, problem solving, yada yada yada. What do you find is his game that pushes you from having him higher? Honestly, like I don't know what level you've seen him at, but I watched him at the pro level for Moto, and I just felt like it was a rough adjustment for him. Like the speed of that game was really high. He wasn't really like it's weird. The thing about a lot of guys from the Moto program over the years is like the individually talented ones kind of seem to get the green light to just do whatever they want at the under 20 level. Like the consistent results in the data for me from Milton Yestrin to Lucas Pedersen to now Elton Hermanson is pretty consistently ridiculously silly. Like they are all transition dominant, very high possession skill guys who funnel pucks to the front of the net. Like they all have a very similar profile, statistically that is. And so that's a really tough combination for me to compare and contrast for the NHL. And so seeing Hermanson at the pro level was a very intriguing thing. A dog is here just to say hello. Hi. But I did wonder about like I hope he sticks at the men's level for a while because I can see how he would produce. But I also am a little bit, like the physicality at that level, the ability for him to make quick plays consistently. Say hello to the dog. There's a dog over there. I hope she doesn't chew on something she shouldn't. She won't. She's a good dog. She's good. She's old enough to know. But yes, Hermanson is good. Like I really like him. And like a top 20 guy, usually top 20 for me is like the list of players that are genuinely exciting. And he is an exciting player. So he deserves a slot somewhere in there for now. I just want to see more of him at the men's level, honestly, because at the junior level, he kind of has the green light to do whatever he wants, and that's always tricky for me to sort out. Hi. What are you doing? Okay. She's just scrounging. Just don't eat the garbage out of my my Ottawa Senators garbage pail here. Just wondering if the WHL has a bit of QMJHL in his future. That is, prospects may put up a ton of points, but how would they do in the NCAA or OHL? Any thoughts on that? I mean, I think that's kind of the case for the entire CHL, right? Like, again, think about the numbers. You've got 60 teams, all with 23 guys on the team. And I mean, how many top major junior level players could there possibly be in the country of Canada, right? The no matter which region you play in, like the differences are oh my god, the differences must be between a first line top scorer in the OHL and a fourth line 2-minute a night 7-minute a night guy is probably pretty big, all things considered. So it is. I don't know if I would single out the WHL. If anything, like the QMJHL is gonna benefit from the added Americans over time if they haven't already. The thing is, it's like I think there's also just a lot of uncertainty, right? Like the uncertainty comes from what happens when more of these guys go to college. What happens when more of these players, leave the CHL at younger ages and the level sort of declines a little bit? Like, what about, does it decline? Who replaces them? The league is going to trend younger, it seems, over time. Apparently the dog is curious about Benjamin Graham and the imposter syndrome I deal with on a daily basis. So yeah, I don't know what's going on. She's just sniffing around, but whatever. She's a herding dog, and I believe that the other one in the house has gone to bed, or at least is on the way. So if I'm not also going to bed, it's stressful, and she's trying to get me to, but she's not bugging me. I think she's just down here messing around. So we'll move on. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's an interesting question because the league is changing. All of the leagues are changing. So it's really hard to give you like a definitive answer. I think there's just like an I don't know going on. We'll see where we're at in 3 years though. But I think a thing to look at is look at like a Gavin McKenna, right? The the difference between Gavin McKenna at the WHL level and the difference between him and him at the NCAA level, at least to this point, is hard to ignore. And I don't mean to like be harping on him or anything, but it's, the same thing with Keaton Verhoff. Like Verhoff is, as far as I can tell, not a, dominant NCAA defenseman right now. He's scoring a lot of goals, but like he did that too in the WHL, and like defensemen and scoring goals are fun, but like not the most important thing in the world in my opinion. And when I watch him at the NCAA level, for a player in his situation, I think he's been very impressive. But it is a challenge, and I think that that's a good thing. So, it's hard to give you a firm, good answer on this, but I think that watching some of these cases of guys that were elite, high-level CHL guys now going to the NCAA as 17, 18-year-olds when they couldn't before, and seeing what that's like and how those games translate and such has been very, very interesting already, at least for me. It's been really interesting. And yeah, I also agree on Hermanson being fun. There are just a lot of, like we were talking about this in the Discord server today with all the other DGens who watch a lot of this. And it's like, there's just a lot of fun players this year. Like there's just a lot of guys that you just scan up and down the list and you go, there's something really interesting about this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy. And I have no idea what this guy's all about, but I like him. And there's like this and this and this and this. And it's a really fun time. It's a good time this year so far to this point, and I'm ready to look back on this in 5 years and go, what the hell was I thinking? Because that's always how these things go. But for now, I'm living in the now. I'm living positively. I'm trying to be positive after a very negative weekend. And yeah, we'll see. I loved CJK, the juice, yeah. Kasper Justavara Carlson, yeah, the juice is what we're calling him in the server nowadays. I watched him, but he didn't really show much offense. Did I get sample sized, or do you think the style of play could bump him up a lineup? Well, I mean, he is just as productive so far as Viggo Bjork, slightly less on a per game basis, but he scored 4 goals this year already. I saw one of them get scored. I think with Justavar Carlson, it is very interesting to see players like him in the SHL where I feel like they feel like to keep their jobs, they have to be going 100 all the time. And if anything, I would like to see him slow things down a little bit on possession of the puck, look a little bit more comfortable, take a breather, take a second, scan a little more on the puck and whatever. But the thing I love about him is that he's playing men's hockey and he's not shy. He is going in deep in the corners. He's grinding. He's bumping. He's playing up against guys bigger and older than him. They're playing for a paycheck. He does not look out of place at that level. There are things I think about his game that are definitely rough around the edges there, and I don't think he's going to get much rope in the NHL. But this guy is a dog, Like the thing that I always thought about him, and I've seen him, set some plays up. It's not like he doesn't have any offensive bones in his body. I've seen a few really impressive moments out of him in the offensive zone. And he knows where to go in the offensive zone from the games I've seen. But like, I look at a guy like Zach Benson in the NHL and I go, well, he's small, but like you watched him in the WHL and you just go, yeah, he's got the work ethic. He's got the energy. He's got the physical intensity. I mean, I think Benson's more skilled than Justavar Carlson, but like also go watch him from the junior league last year if you can. Like, he was a point a game last year. Like he was an offensively creative, pretty darn good player. And I think we talked about this last week, but like there's a few guys where it seems like they're trying to keep a job in the SHL and they're going, their feet are going a little faster than their brain and it's a little bit of adrenaline taking over and it's just not as comfortable as the junior level. And then you go watch these guys as the junior level and you go, oh, okay, like they do have this sort of offensive bone that's there and it just doesn't come out very much at the men's level because it's really hard to score in the SHL. Like it's really, really hard. Unless you're Anton Frondel, but like it's hard. It's not an easy league. Especially when you're small. But like I think if anything, like Justavar Carlson to me is a top 9 guy. And the thing for me is like in the NHL, you don't have to be an elite offensive player to be impactful. Like it's helpful, but you don't have to be that. And I think he plays a style of play that with the right coaching and the right guidance and all that stuff, like I think he could go places. I think he's an interesting player. Which NHL teams do you point to traditional way of roster construction doesn't work anymore? I mean, last year I probably would say the Ducks based on how things were going there, but they've righted the ship, I think, pretty well. It's a really good question. I'm also stalling while I pull up the standings here. I wouldn't put Calgary in that group. Minnesota maybe I think could be put in that group, but like they've got a guy like Bouillon kind of making waves. They didn't trade Marco Rossi. I mean, Toronto I think is they're down 3-0 to the Penguins. Oh my god. You want to talk storybook kind of thing. Kyle Dubas coming back into town, and how do you do? Yeah, like Minnesota comes to mind. It's also really tricky too because you don't just want to point out the teams that are just bad, right? I think the Kings are teetering on that. I don't know. I don't think there are that many anymore. Maybe the Flyers a little bit. Like Rick Tocchet seems to be kind of that type of a coach. But I don't think the Rangers maybe are a team like that. Like the Rangers could be one. There's a few, but I don't think there are that many, honestly. Which 2026 player has been your biggest surprise or come out of nowhere guy? I mean, honestly, like after the game we did this past week of him, Adam Gollier is really impressive to me. Like he is a guy who, he's not small. He's a pretty good skater for his size. He's pretty young. I think he's a June birthday. June. Pretty young, pretty big, playing men's hockey. The Slovak league is not a joke. It's not the hardest league in the world, I don't think, professionally, but it's not easy either. I don't think he's getting much power play time. You see some moments there where there's like skill in open ice and creativity. It's not quite up to the level to like be that Simon Nemec level player, but the smarts off the puck, the defensive ability, the willingness to play physical and actually get results doing so is really impressive. And he's at the top of my second round. Like I really, really like him, and I did not expect to say that coming into this year. Thomas Vandenberg, I liked last year, but I did not think I'd like him as much as I have this year. I mean, Oliver Suvanto, I had no idea who that was going into this year, and he's been really impressive and is a very, very intriguing player. He may be a top 12, maybe top 10 guy for me this season. There's a lot, though. Like a lot of the Europeans. Verdi Svensk, I liked at the under-18s last year, but I did not think I'd like him this much this year. William Hokanson, yeah, Suvanto, I had no idea who that was last year, and look at him now. There's a few, man. Like the European group this year is looking pretty good. Not the Canadian one doesn't, but like there's a lot of good Europeans this year, and a lot of them I had really very little idea of who they were last year. Ivan Fomin, 17 goals in 19 games, eh? Not bad. Not bad. 49% involvement in his team's offense. Very nice. That's almost one. Yegor Shilov. Ben Merrill. We got a Ben Merrill question. Ben Merrill has 5 points in 5 games at BU. Is he a big body on a great team, or does he have reasonable NHL potential? I can't tell you. I have not seen BU at all this year, so I can't. That's on Max Penkin. Yeah. I mean, that's the German kid, right? I've seen him. Yeah, he's an 09 for next year. I like this kid. Like I haven't seen enough of him to be like, oh yeah, he's the greatest German player since Tim Stützle. Like I'm not gonna lie and say that, but I did see him at the Hlinka this year and did note him quite a bit as probably one of the better players on that team. Like the guys I'm trying to remember that I marked from that group. I think my spreadsheet is called Who Linka. Right, it's called Who Linka is Fun. That's what it's called. And Penkin was number what on this team here? He was number 9. Yeah, like I mentioned, I noted him quite a bit for good and negative things, and that makes sense for an undersized-ish, small, young kid playing at a high level of competition against teams way better than they were. But yeah, he's in my notes quite often from that tournament, and yeah, the fact that he's in the DEL at this age is pretty remarkable. So it might be worth a look. I haven't seen much of him there at all, but yeah. Can you talk about which players in the past 2 or 3 years you badly wanted for team scouting? Yeah, I mean, like, let's see here. I'm a little annoyed in retrospect that I didn't just pull the trigger on LJ Mooney this year, but I thought I would get a chance later on in the draft. Same thing with Tinus Luke Koblar, but Toronto just had to go ahead and do it where I took Svirchek. Not that I regret the Svirchek pick. I mean, like last year, Toronto. Yeah, where did Toronto pick last year? Like, let's see, Toronto. They picked 64th. So who went right before 64 that I would have really liked to have? Not a whole lot, honestly. Not a whole lot. I mean, especially when you don't pick in the first round, it's pretty tricky. I mean, the fact that like Toronto could have had a guy like Lyndon Lakovic last year, like that, I would have been all over that. Eric Nilsson too, in the early second round, mid second round, like I would have been all over that. Yeah. I don't know. There's probably a lot. But I mean they're almost always relegated to like top 2 round guys, because once you get past the third round, like it's kind of just the guys that I really like that are left, that are kind of off the beaten path or smaller or whatever. And I just kind of go, I just like these guys. I don't know if they're going to be a thing, but like relative to some of these other guys that people are picking, like I'd rather have these guys. You know, I'm not sitting here going every pick I make is going to be a banger. I think that's asinine. But most of it is like top round guys, and Toronto just hasn't really drafted much in the top 50, like if at all, in the last little while. The Gavin Brindley one, I would have taken Gavin Brindley where they took Easton Cowan, and you know, I still stand by that. I think Brindley is a phenomenal player. I think he's been great with the Avalanche this year. So yeah, but there's obviously players that I've just loved over the years that I just never really got a chance at, for sure. Inspired by a Discord conversation, how do you think a guy like Daxon Rudolph would do if he had to face someone like Gustav Carlson pressuring him in his own end? I mean, you know the answer to this question. I feel like Gustav Carlson would take his lunch money. And that's part of the issue with Daxon Rudolph, in my opinion. What we are seeing with the CHL NCAA agreement, some of these decent CHL players not getting the minutes in the NCAA on some of those high-end teams. Do you foresee some of those players going back? I had a feeling this was going to happen, okay? Because for those who don't know, Scouching is owned by, it's a subsidiary, technically, of a company called Fractal Hockey. And Fractal Hockey we don't do that much anymore in terms of like contract work and everything, because we got really frustrated. And one of the things that was really frustrating was that for a long time, the NCAA CHL agreement was rumored, and it was floating around out there as a thing that was going to happen, and blah, 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 blah. So I was talking a lot to NCAA coaches, or at least trying to reach out to them and going, hey, you know, I'm part of this company. We're in Canada. We know a lot about these guys. We can give you tailored data packages. We can help you find what you're looking for in terms of players, and make sure that those scholarships you're handing out will be done at a value that is optimal, right? We figured like teams that are in the mid to bottom of the NCAA pipeline that have programs that are very marketable one way or the other would be like, yeah, let's find a way to stand out against the Michigans, the Boston universities, the Boston colleges, and try to land some of these CHL guys. You know, a great example would be like an Ayrton Martino. Right, Clarkson had Ayrton Martino, and he was a huge driver of offense for that team. Every year he was there. So it's like, just because you go to a Boston college or go to a Boston university or whatever does not automatically mean you're going to have this amazing career, this long, you know, historic, like glorious college hockey career. It doesn't guarantee anything. It's like you kind of have to pick what's the best situation for you, not the most prestigious, so to speak, you know? And so, and if the bigger school wants you, maybe you transfer there one day. But like, I don't know. I think again, but what ended up happening was it was an arms race. It was we kind of got like the cold shoulder. It was like it's not. A lot of teams even came out and said it's not happening. Like a lot of coaches responded and were like, it's not happening. It's not going to happen. Please don't bother me. And I went, okay, it's going to happen, but like, okay, I'm whatever. And then they didn't pick up the phone when we called when it actually did happen. So, that's where that went. But the point I'm trying to make is that there was an arms race. Teams were they were handing out scholarships like candy on Halloween, right? And so obviously a guy is going to be like, of course I want to go to Michigan. Of course I want to go to Boston University. Of course I want to do this. Of course I want to do that. Like, of course I want to do that. And of course these schools are going to offer these to everybody because it's like, yeah, you're going to have a dominant college team, right? And at the end of the day, that's not always the right answer. That's not always the right fit. And so I think you're seeing that now where guys are going and they're like, oh, I might not have gotten into the right situation here. This might have been a little hasty. This might have been, whatever. And this is the problem with a lot of industries like this, right? Like, it's like if you're an agent, it is so much more prestigious to have a player go to University of Michigan than it is to go to the University of St. Thomas. No offense. I'm not disrespecting St. Thomas students, graduates, alumni, teachers, whatever. I'm sure it's a lovely place. But the college prestige programs in hockey are very different. So they have a vested interest in ignoring a St. Thomas because it looks better. But it's not what's best for the player always. So it's like, are you a good agent if you tell them to consider somewhere like a St. Thomas or a Stonehill or an LIU or whatever, where you're going to be a first-line player the day you show up on campus? You're going to be the guy, probably. If you're a solid, higher-end CHL player, you're probably a really good candidate to be one of the better players on the team from day one, right? So, yeah. At the end of the day, it's the kind of the way she goes, right? Like, this is kind of the problem is when you're dealing with young people and young athletes and everything, there's this, like, weird discussion you have to have where it's like, well, if you're honest with them, some other agent might not be honest with them and give them a better idea of what's possible. And who cares about the after effects because my kid went to Michigan. Whereas I'm sitting here being like, I'd rather get you in the right scenario, like shop around a little bit, see what Northern Michigan can offer you, right? Like see what, some other place is going to offer you that is, where you're going to get what you want. Rather than like, oh yeah, if you come to Michigan, yeah, you'll be a top 6, top 9 guy. No problem. You'll play every game, blah, 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 blah. And then you get there and they're like, there's 30 guys here. Like, what's happening? Not saying that's what happened, but like, you kind of see where I'm coming from here. How hard is it to project defensemen who don't handle pressure well? Well, I'll tell you, if you can't handle pressure well at the junior level of hockey, you're probably not going to handle it very well at higher levels of hockey, right? Like, it's the number one thing with Owen Power that I saw over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, where I felt like I was insane pointing it out, where I'm like, nobody is talking about this. And it's happening every single game. Like, similarly to Levshinov, where it's like, am I blind? Like, what is happening here? Like, this seems like something that you should be able to do. And it's very important. Like, you don't want to be coughing the puck up below your own goal line. You don't want to be coughing the puck up in the bottom half of the defensive zone. You don't like that has to be like for first overall level player, like that has to be like second nature. You know what I mean? So it is really hard because it doesn't get any easier. And I'm trying to think of guys over the years who have struggled in that area and it ended up working. Like, there just honestly aren't that many guys who I think struggle in that area, honestly. I don't think so. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't think there are that many. So when it happens, I kind of just go like, this is problematic. Like, this is a bit of an issue for one reason or another. Like, a Sam Dickinson is an example of one where it was a little different, where it's like the puck would get dumped into his own zone and he would just not pressure the person at all. You just like let them get to the puck first and then like give them a shove as they went around the corner behind his own net, and off they go to the races, and he's kind of just floating to the front of the net, and off they go on a defensive zone cycle. It's like but then the next shift he would have great body positioning and do the right thing, and everything would work out great. So it's like, I don't know the answer to that question, but what I guess I would say is like it kind of makes it harder to say I would take this guy first, second, fifth, sixth, seventh overall, because a defenseman that struggles in that area is like, that's a pretty key area to the position. So it makes it a lot easier for someone else to maybe be a more enticing option. So it's really tricky. It's tricky. I don't know the right or wrong answer here, but that's kind of how I see it. Austin Matthews, Elias Pettersson, who's been the bigger disappointment so far? Probably Austin Matthews, honestly. I mean, I haven't seen as much of the Vancouver Canucks, but look, like Austin Matthews portrays himself as a superstar. The Leafs pay him like he's a superstar. And the big problem has been that, like in my mind, with a superstar, you know what you're getting every game. You know that this player will be threatening no matter what, right? That to me is a superstar. They are a threat all the time. I don't think you can say that for either of those players. And I love Elias Pettersson. I don't know what's going on with either of these guys. I mean, Matthews, I think what is going on is he has had injuries over the years that are limiting his ability to be the Austin Matthews of old, and he has grown into a different type of player. But the different type of player that he is not a superstar. It is a very, very valuable player. Don't get me wrong. I think Austin Matthews, as he is now, is still a very valuable and important member of that team, just based on how he plays, right? But is it that 60-goal scorer? I don't know. Maybe, but he doesn't strike me that way when he plays. He strikes me as more of a transition-oriented two-way center now. That's a lot of where his game has gone. He's more physical than he used to be, for better or worse. That's just kind of how it goes. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, like the NFL with conferences. Yeah, we talked about that. Do you think Ignat Fulham will be given a chance in the NHL one day? I love him. Maybe. Probably not. But I'd like to see it. He's fun. I've always liked Ignat. He's a good one. This is an interesting tidbit, but one of the Australian channels has started streaming a hockey game every Saturday morning. Whoa, that's pretty cool. The catch is the commentary's brutal. All right, well, look, you make some phone calls, and I'll make the flight. I'll come down to Australia. I'll commentate some games. It would be a lot of fun. And you get to hear my awful Australian accent. I would do it. I would do it just for the fans. I would do it. I'd debase myself like that in order to do it for that. It would be, it would be fun. I'd catch a flight down to Australia in a heartbeat if it meant improving on the level of commentary at those games. Parek or Booyam? I still would lean Booyam, probably. Parek is not far behind, though. Really not far behind. I think they were in the same tier in my draft ranking, and I probably would leave it that way, but I had Booyam higher. Any thoughts on Alex Bilecki and Jackson Cover? I haven't seen Bilecki enough, so I'll file him away. Cover, I like. He's physical, and there's a lot of energy in his game. I think there's flashes of skill and that sort of inside-driven with the puck play that I like to see. I have another game of his ready to go, so I'll have better thoughts on him later, but I was a little underwhelmed with like the volume of offense that was coming out of his game from what I saw. But a good, he's fun. I think he has that like I hate to use the word grit and like tenacity, but he kind of has that, which is a good baseline. And there's a level of skill in his game that I think is good as well. So we'll see. I'll check him out pretty soon. And yeah, we'll see. Thoughts on Maximus Crete? I know that name. Why do I know that name? London Knights. Okay, well, I haven't seen this guy either, so I will put him on the list, and yeah, we'll have a look. And Alex Bilecki, was it? Alexander Bilecki. Oh, this kid. Oh, yeah. I remember him from the Kitchener Rangers. I have not seen him this year, though. But I remember noting him a few times last year and thinking he was pretty good. So, yeah, he was all right. Leafs are still down 3-0. Nice. The Penguins, man, 9 wins. They're on pace for 9 wins through 20 points through 14 games. That's unbelievable. When did you lose your and in the scroller? Oh, I gotta fix that. I actually do need to update this for this season. Which two-way center do you think has the most untapped offensive potential? Excluding Ty Lawrence. Well, Ty Lawrence has quite a bit. Two-way center with untapped offensive potential. I mean, Suvanto, I would say. Adam Anderson. I think Adam Anderson is a really good example of that. Maybe Rudolf Spurskalns, the Latvian and Muskegon. He's pretty good. Doesn't score a ton, but I like him. JC Lemieux. I like JC Lemieux a little bit. You know, nice, gritty, sort of bottom six guy, but I think he has some skill and playmaking ability that hasn't quite come together yet. And he's a center, or at least listed as one. Man, there's a lot of really intriguing players. I'm just scrolling up and down my list here, and there's a lot of good ones. It's fun. Why does your garden constantly churn out NHL talent? I don't think I hear of many other clubs that have as much volume in the last 7 years because they are in Stockholm. They are the team in Stockholm with money and resources. It's just unusual because they have been in Hockey Allsvenskan for the last few years. You know, like imagine the NHL did not have a team in Toronto, you know, or did not have a team in Montreal because they were in the second division. It's like, I'm sure Montreal would still find a way to have good talent, right? Like, there's a lot of hockey players in Stockholm. A lot of them probably want to stay close to home. They have a lot of networking ability around Sweden. It makes sense. It makes sense to me. How many CHL defensemen get drafted because they were a warm body on the power play and had good numbers? Probably a lot, honestly. Who do you like better in the 23-23 draft year, Denver Barkey or Luca Pinelli? They were very close on my list, if not next door to each other. I think in retrospect, I probably would have Barkey as a more likely one. Like, Pinelli is a hell of a finisher. He's a hell of a finisher. Barkey is just that, like, just a jerk in a good way. Like, he has that, Pinelli has it kind of as well, but it's not nearly on the same level. Like, Barkey has that bark, so to speak. Like, he has a bit of that, shove you around a little bit type of energy and mucking it up a little bit more that I like about him. And Pinelli is more of like a finisher, really high-end shooter and has some pretty good, high-pace offensive ability and all that. But, yeah, I mean, intriguing player and, yeah. Why has Matt Savoy struggled in the NHL? Well, I saw this and asked, well, I didn't ask, but I went to Hockey Viz here, and the first thing I notice is he's not playing much, and he's not playing with anybody consistently, except maybe Adam Henrique, I guess you could say, Trent Frederick, a mixture of those two. He started the year with Nugent Hopkins and Mangiapane, it looks like. Spent some time with McDavid. I don't know. I honestly have not seen much of the Oilers this year as of yet, but a line of Frederick, Henrique, Savoy feels like they're not going to score a whole lot, and that's sort of more of a depth, sort of all 200-foot line that can maybe chip in. I don't know. I mean, Savoy to me always seems to be a guy where I'm not sure he's going to be a cajillion point scorer, but he has the skating ability, the energy, and the work rate to be a top 9 guy, finding somewhere to be that sort of Kasperi Kapanen style of job where it might not be with the team that drafts him, but they'll find a role for him somewhere, and he'll be pretty good at it. And with Savoy, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's only been a few games. It's still early. He is a rookie. And they're still playing him, right? Like, it's not like they've sent him to the minors. They have every reason to, so to speak. So clearly they're not really, taking things away from him, but his numbers aren't very good. His analytics are not very good. He's been a negative draw on pretty much everybody he plays with. So that's a tough one. It might just be that, he might need to go back to the AHL for a little bit, but I don't know. We'll see. It's never over until it's over. How did they get relegated? Yeah. How did they get relegated? They just did not have a very good team. Minnesota got rid of... Okay, whatever. We're falling behind here. Currently watching Ignatavicius. I'm so confused on what to think. Welcome to the party. I like him. I mean, he's big and he's got some power in his game. There's a bit of skill. But I don't know. I don't see him as much more than like a bottom six guy, maybe. Ben Kindle scored again. Very nice. Like that. I like that a lot. Did you like Victor Eklund more than William Eklund? I mean, define better. They're different players. Like, Victor is that Zach Benson style sort of forechecking menace with physicality and northbound offense and, a really good shot. And William Eklund is more of that finesse, edges, board work, playmaker, who can really fly around the ice. Not that Victor can't, but they're different players. I felt more confident about Eklund being a real difference maker in the NHL, but I felt the floor with Eklund was really high. Like, I know he's not the biggest guy in the world. I mean, what is he listed at 5'11" now? Probably. Something like that. Yeah, he's listed 5'11", so... he's so small. Oh, no. Whatever shall we do? Oh, no. He's doing just fine. So, yeah. I don't know. I think the floor is stronger with Eklund, but I don't think he has the sort of dual threat sort of offensive upside that William has, but I feel like he's a guy you'll win games with, though. I love that kid. He's great. Do you think McQueen has a real shot as a top sixer, or are you not sold on him? I've seen one of his games at Providence and forgot he was on the team halfway through. Yeah. Look, I had McQueen lower than Eric Nilsson, right? Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of McQueen last year. I know that, like, he said he was 100% at the combine. As far as I can tell, like, that was not 100% accurate. It would not surprise me if he is taking it relatively easy at the beginning of his college career so as not to aggravate anything, and he's going to work his way up the level of play there. I mean, I had him ranked at 19. I still feel pretty good about that range for him. To me, it was the injuries that scared me, and it was a bet on upside and potential, but not as high as people were saying and not as high as he went. And yeah, I did see Providence a little bit this year, and I don't know. After a season like last year, I thought he would go back for one more year in the WHL, just the same as Caden Lindstrom. You've missed a whole bunch of time. You didn't look awesome when you did come back. Like, you haven't played a game at 100% in a calendar year and a bit. So why do that in the NCAA all of a sudden, right? Ramp your way in. Postpone, pretend last year didn't exist, But I don't know. It's still early in the year, and I would not be surprised if McQueen is just being careful and the team is just saying, like, let's ramp things up over time. But yeah, I mean, I still wasn't the biggest fan of him last year compared to what other people were saying. Why do we never hear about hockey prospects from Canadian universities? Because most kids don't go to Canadian universities for hockey or anything. sport related really until they're past 20. Like they're past draft age anyway. They're done with, they're done with they're done with the CHL, for example. I mean, I do believe that U Sports hockey is a little underrated. I think that you're seeing more guys go there. You're seeing more guys. I mean, maybe not so much anymore because of the NCAA stuff, but there was a time where you saw some teams attracting some really good junior talent and all that stuff, like UNB and Alberta and all that stuff. But also, like, look, the numbers just don't make sense, right? Like, I don't know if you're an American. I don't know. But Canadian universities just do not have the same resources that American ones do, and they just absolutely do not have the same resources that professional teams do, right? So let's say you're a 20-year-old, 21-year-old OHLer, and the phone rings, and it's the Odessa Jackalopes, and they're like, we'll pay you $35,000 next year to play in the East Coast Hockey League, 2 stops below the NHL, and who knows what's possible from there. Or Mount Allison calls you and goes, hey, you want a scholarship and take a communications degree and play hockey at Mount Allison. It's like, I think I know which one I would choose if I were a hockey player, right? So it's not the same as the NCAA because Canadian universities are almost all of them in U Sports, I think, are publicly funded, if not all of them. I don't think we have like any private universities up here, unlike in the States where even the public ones are like drowning in alumni money. Canadians don't really have the same, I'm going to give a whole bunch of my money to my alma mater attitude, it really seems. Mostly because Canadians, we don't have any money, But in any case, that's kind of the thing. That's the issue, is there's just, they can't really compete. Especially now that NCAA teams are kind of gobbling everybody up, which is a shame because I know U Sports is pretty good and the kids who play there really love hockey and it's good that they're doing what they're doing. It's just a numbers game and it's not in Canada's favor, unfortunately, like so many other things. What did Fractal Hockey do with the Ottawa Senators? Feels like one of the last teams that would take advantage of your services. We didn't really touch NHL teams, honestly, because they all have tons of money and can get whatever access to tailored anything they want ever. Our attitude was like focus on European teams for import jobs and college teams for scholarships and agencies and all of that stuff. And you'd be amazed at how little interest there was in that. I've never played EU. Should I get into EU5? Civ 7 left a bad taste in your mouth. I actually got Civ... Weird. I actually got Civ 7 going again a couple days ago before I went to bed, and they've made some really good improvements, I think, to that. Like, some of the UI is better. They've added a map. The default map is now continents and islands, which is really good, I think. It's a really, really good map template. EU5 I don't have. I don't plan on buying it until it goes on sale. I'm not touching EU until the off season because this past summer was rough for me in that sense. I played a lot of EU4. So if it's going to be EU5, I'm going to wait for it to be on sale. I'm going to wait until next year. But Civ 7, like I kind of like where it's at now. I know people give it a bad rap and it's not Civ 5. But there are things about it that I really like. Like the way that you can do combat now, by and large, is really, 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 really good. I think it's the best out of any of them. But a lot of it is just not quite right. But they are, I think, improving it. I think they are improving it. And like many other Civ games, like after an expansion or two, it's going to be great. Like I feel it's going to be great. Because this happened before, where the games originally were not as fun, and then they added a few other features and a few expansions, and it was really good. They're adding pirates to Civ 7, so there's that too. So Scouching is not owned by someone else. I own it. I am the majority shareholder in Fractal Hockey by a very wide margin. Don't get me wrong. But Scouching, for tax purposes, is a subsidiary of that company that I own. Originally, it wasn't like that, but with Fractal, it just made more sense to... I bought Scouching with Fractal Hockey for $1 that I gave to myself, if that makes any sense. business, man. Capitalism at work, you know? That's how it works. I kind of Elon Musked it, but like on a $1 scale and not $48 billion or whatever it was. You know, it's like, oh, I have this thing that I torpedoed and destroyed, so I'm just going to sell it to myself for the same amount of money that I paid for it, so it didn't lose a penny of value, and now it's another company I own's problem. I kind of did that, but I didn't have it on the same scale. The NCAA player I was thinking about when I asked the question was Lev Katzen. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Lev Katzen I don't think was ready for jumping out of the OHL right away. Like, I thought he was good, but yeah, I thought he needed some more time. I did not think that he was going to be I did not think he was going to be like what happened here? Did I lose it? Yeah, like I did not think he was going to be hitting the ground running NCAA high-end player. And like Penn State, again, like Penn State, it must be so hard to not take what they must be offering you as an 18-year-old, right? Like a team like Stonehill or Arizona State may very well have been a much better fit for a guy like Lev Katzen for job-wise, role-wise, you know, whatever. But like saying no to Penn State, probably really difficult, let alone how much money they were probably throwing around. Who knows? But this is the problem. This was always going to be the problem. This type of thing, the floodgates opening like this, it was never going to make a whole lot of sense. It was never going to be logical. There was always going to be messes. It was going to be greasy and messy for a little while. And look, if you know, I mean, I hate to sort of be idealistic or whatever, but like if I were an agent, my goal would be, I want to make sure that this kid is going to play. I want to make sure that this guy's going to be comfortable at this level. I want to be very intimately familiar with how he plays and where they're at as a player and all these things. And, you know, if it means that this kid has to go play third division hockey in Sweden because that's where he belongs, then that's what he's going to do, right? It might not be as prestigious, but you're going to play a lot. You're going to get a lot of reps. The coach likes you. You like where it is. It's a place you play hockey for a certain amount of time that works for you. It is not just the most prestigious thing in the world. It's the same approach I have as to like hiring a head coach, right? I would rather interview everyone under the sun and find the right person than just look for who needs a job, right? Who's the guy that went to the Stanley Cup final 8 years ago and has no job? You know, that's just not the approach I would have. But it's hard to do that when everybody else is kind of going, no, I don't know. Dickinson is showing improvement. I hope so. You know, I mean, he's only played 10 games. So yeah. Is Matthews going through the same phase Ovi went through when everyone thought he was cooked? Ovechkin couldn't play the way he did when he was young forever. It was functionally impossible. I don't think that's the case with Matthews. Like Matthews, it was injuries. Like Ovechkin famously doesn't really get injured all that often. Matthews doesn't play a full season very often at all. At least in the last few years, it's been off and on. So yeah, I mean, with I don't think Matthews is cooked. I don't think that's the case at all. I just think that he is evolving as a player because of injuries. Like he just isn't, at least as like it's been so long and it's been so cryptic and weird with his injuries that it's like maybe he's just fundamentally a different player, right? And he's trying to become elite in something that he's not grown up being elite at, you know? Maybe. I mean, I don't know him. I don't know for a fact, but just from watching him over the years, he seems to be reprogramming how he plays in, I would say, a intelligent way, considering if it is injury related. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that there is I think in terms of a phase, I mean, the phase for me with Matthews is like, you're the guy now. There's no more hiding, you know? Not that he hides, but like Mitch Marner was your line mate for a long time, and it worked really, really well. And he was your he was your right-hand man. Was he right? Left wing? Right? Whatever. William Nylander, I mean, there's nobody disputing that William Nylander is a rock star of a hockey player, right? Like, he's been their consistent playoff guy forever. So I don't think William Nylander's sitting there going like, yeah, I know I'm the guy. Like, I don't think he's sitting there going like, I'm the guy. Wait, what are you talking about? No, he's the guy. He knows it. That's the whole joy of him. He knows how good he is. He shows it. Matthews, like, if you're gonna be the $13 whatever million guy, you know, we got to figure out what that's gonna look like, because I don't know if he's there right now. So we'll see. I don't know. If anything, in the last little while, he looks a little bit more. Matthews scored. There you go. Thank you for the super chat. You know, I think that with him, it's like I don't think he's cooked at all. I think it's just a matter of finding an identity that works, and I think he's getting there. And if anything, he's playing more like Ovechkin when Ovechkin was young, with that more physicality and that higher energy and more of that off-puck sort of intensity level that Ovechkin kind of has not had for a very long time. It's kind of not really his jam anymore. Why do the Leafs suck? Oh man. I mean, I feel like we talk about this every show, but like I think that it's 3-2. Okay, so maybe the Leafs don't suck. But like the thing with the Leafs, I've said this all season long, is whenever I watch them play, once the puck is in the top half of the ice, they are just as good as anybody else in the league. If you complete one pass in their own end, you have the puck for as long as you want. They lack explosiveness, they lack quickness, they lack breakout ability from their own zone. They play dump and chase and no chase. It's just a style of play that I think really good teams know how to get around and know how to beat. And I think when you watch a team like that New Jersey game they played was really eye-opening for me, for example. And that's a team at the top of the standings, and Toronto is, as we speak, at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. And they have given up more goals than all but one team in the East, and that team is the Ottawa Senators. So, yeah. How early would you draft a center you project to have excellent defensive acumen but limited offensive potential? Like if you saw a guy you thought would be a future Guy Carbonneau. I mean, I think guys like that are really valuable, especially past the first few picks in the draft, right? Like if you can get a Guy Carbonneau at 20th overall, wouldn't you do it? He's a Hall of Famer, right? He's a Hall of Famer, right? Like, it sounds hockey man of me, and maybe it is, but like I look at a guy like a Murat Kuznetsov, right? Like I never thought he was a first-line center like he is right now or has been in Boston, but a really good third-line center on a contending team, absolutely. That's a guy I want playing third-line center. You know, and so that has value to me. You know, I think that what you're looking for, I think in the draft, in my opinion, are guys that you win with. Guys who have special scoring ability and do so in a way that I think could work in the NHL is one thing. Pretty soon after that, it's like, okay, you may not be the elite scorer, you may not be this or that, but like, can I throw you over the boards with 2 minutes left in the game and know that if we're losing, we're going to get a chance to win, or if we're winning, we're going to have a chance to pull it off. You know, that's a major, major thing for me. Like, I just know that you will attack the opponent in such a way that if we're losing, we probably will make a push to win. And if we're winning, we will probably make a push to not lose. Right? Like, that's kind of the goal. And I think a guy like that up the middle is very, very, very important. Very important. And that's kind of why I have a guy like Tynan Lawrence as high as I do. He may very well be number one on my list by the end of the year. I think he's a guy you win with. Charlie Morrison thoughts? I I haven't seen enough of him. I saw a bit of him because he just came back and started playing. I liked him a lot last year. I'm going to track a game of his from this coming weekend if he plays. I think he will. Because I don't really like, for guys coming off injury especially, like, I don't really like tracking their first couple of games coming back from injury. So I'll do a game of his this week because I liked him a lot last year, and we'll see. I can't give you a good answer right now, though. Do you see Mathis Preston as ultimately the best forward on a Stanley Cup contender? If so, why? I think the thing about Mathis Preston, look, I've made the comparison to William Nylander before, and I think that's apt. Like, there is an energy level to Mathis Preston and a pace of play and a skill level and a finishing ability, unlike, I say, in combination, anybody in the draft. He's the type of player that I think will just score and score. I mean, he's under a point a game right now, which is shocking to me. But he's the type of player that if he's got his feet moving and he's going and he's working as a unit with his line mates, like, he can score and score and score and score and score, and will do so, I think, at any level. Like, I feel like if you plop, like, I mean, maybe not, it's a little early, but especially considering his age, he's really young. The quickness in his game, the quickness in which he processes the game, his finishing ability, like, it's very unique in this draft, and that's why I love him so much. I think I probably will not have him at number one, but I think the thing that I think in my mind, following if I read between the lines on your question a little bit, I think this draft is 5 or 6 guys deep of all very different but important role players in the NHL one day. Like, I think Mathis Preston, he's not going to be your number one center, but I think he could be a first-line scoring winger. Like, look at what Clayton Keller's doing, right? Like, would you want a Clayton Keller if you're the Utah Mammoth on a playoff run? Probably, right? And the Utah Mammoth are top of the division. And you look back on that draft, and Clayton Keller probably went right around where he should, but, like, he's turned out to be quite a hell of a player. Especially under their new coach, Tourigny, who's been there a little while, but, like, he has really become something there. Logan Cooley is also there, right? Like, I think Logan Cooley and Clayton Keller are kind of the two huge reasons that team is so successful this year, right? And I think that you see another type of player like that in a Preston. Like, you don't get a guy like that skilled and that quick and that aggressive that often. But it's just kind of going to be up to, he's like one of those players where it's like almost up to him as how good he wants to be. And it was the same thing with Nylander at this age, right? Like, there were complaints about him at this age, but look at him now, the right guidance, the right motivation, the right personality, everything. And he got to where he is. And he's been a great contender, a great player on a contender in the playoffs. I don't think anybody would complain about William Nylander's play in the playoffs at all, at least not anymore. But I think there are other guys at this top of the draft class, like Lawrence and Verhoff and McKenna and Stenberg, that you could slice it in a way that they are more enticing than Preston. I could see it. I'm not saying that's impossible. Even Villeneuve. I think that's more of a stretch, but it's possible. I think with Preston, though, you just have such a unique combination of traits that you don't come across very often that every NHL team wishes they had more of. It's just a rare combination of abilities. And I just don't think the other, like, Lawrence might be the number one guy for me now that I look at it and think about it and all that stuff right now, but we'll see. I want to do a little bit more legwork on that and figure it out. Should Kindle get Dubas and Marner to sign the game jersey after his first career hat trick today? Have to auction it off for a charity. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Should Kindle get Dubas and Marner to sign the game jersey after his first career hat trick? I don't think you need to include Marner on that. But Dubas signing it and auctioning it off at a charity would be very funny in Toronto. I would bid on it. I certainly would. Leafs, meandering for McKenna this year. Wait, do they even have their first? They do if it's a top 5 pick. Toronto has a draft pick in the top 5 if they have it, if that's where they end up. If they choose. Wouldn't that be something, eh? Wouldn't that be something? We talked about Mathis Preston already. There's no Russian thing going back to the beginning. Yeah, okay. Hello, Zach. Is Harry Nancy legit? He never wasn't. No, I mean, he's very, very good. A lot of his productions come on the power play this year, but look, I mean, I've always thought that there was something really good there. Big, rangy, physical, awful team last year, but he did what he could. You know, and I again, the youth is a big part of what drew me to him. He's super, super young. There's a good level of skill, pretty smart playmaker, does so at a high pace of play, excellent forechecker. Just checked so many boxes that I really, really like out of a player last year. And yeah, like where Toronto took him, if they were like, yeah, we're thinking of Harry Nancy, I'd be like, yes, draft that player, please. Thank you very much. The Leafs are pre-2015 bad. I don't know about that bad. Let's slow down a little bit. But the Leafs are not looking awesome. They're just, it's tied. The game's tied, so they're good. The Leafs are sick. Never mind. If Villeneuve were in the OHL, WHL, would you have more faith in his game? No, I don't think so. I don't subscribe to that belief about Villeneuve where it's like, oh, the QMJHL sucks, therefore this and this and this. Like, I just look at the way he plays, right? And I also go back to we had a discussion about this in the Discord server, and like go back and watch him at the U18s if you can. He was one of the youngest guys in that tournament, and he looked great. I thought he was great at that tournament, and that was against the best in the world for his age group. So it doesn't really concern me all that much. You know, like to me, I see him as like a Sam Girard on steroids, and you know, Sam Girard's been a top 4 defenseman for a really, really, really long time. You know, so for me with Villeneuve, I think there's a really intriguing player there. It doesn't matter where he plays. I think it's the skating ability, the skill level. I think he's a better defensive player than he gets credit for. A lot of the time, maybe not all the time. Some of the time you want to wonder what he's doing, but you know, generally for a player like that, he's pretty good. We need a Will Finance channel. I think you're the 3rd or 4th person who has said that. I mean, it has crossed my mind. It is something I am very, very into. I can't help it. I was raised that way. I was raised on Excel spreadsheets to budget my allowance. I'm half joking about that. And I think it is an extremely important thing to be genuinely educated about. And it is an extremely important thing that is full of scams and nonsense these days. And a lot of misinformation and a lot of BS. If I did do it, or if I did whatever, I don't know, I'm open to suggestions. If I did something like that, I would promise I would never, ever, 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 ever sell a course. No, I would never do that. But what I would do is just $1 Patreon. That's it. You know, $1 a month, you know, and just do something like this, but for that, you know, no courses, no insider tips, because I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert. Anybody who says they know what's going to happen with the stock market is a liar. You don't know. It's all about hedging your bets, understanding probabilities, looking at fundamentals, understanding how money works. I think that's really interesting. And I think that's a skill that I think people need to learn, especially in a world that is increasingly monetized and increasingly trying to take advantage of you, I would say, with regards to how you spend your money and all that. And it is I think it's genuinely a very interesting topic. You know, managing money, how money works, how money flies around the world. You know, I mean, look, I know that my neck of the woods on the internet is probably not the most pro-capitalist group of people, but I consider myself a pretty firm fan of capitalism, and I think that it's because I do think it's a really good system, but it's got to be you know, managed and regulated properly. You know, I'm not against regulation. I think that those two things need to work in balance and in harmony with one another. You know, I'm an environmentalist, for example. I'm a believer in environmental protection, you know. But that being said, I am a big fan of the system in which our world has run the last 200 some years, by and large. It's not perfect, but it's the way I would like to do it. And I think that the more people know about how it should operate, ideally, from a fundamental standpoint, like I think there hasn't been a phrase more bastardized in the universe these days than free market. I like the free market too, but I think what a lot of people are talking about is the free market is not a very free market. Anyway, we're getting off track here, but I mean, hey, look, it's something I enjoy. You know, I've spent years learning and making some bad mistakes with my own decisions there, but not all of them are bad. You know, you got to pick your winners and pick your losers and live with it. But yeah, look, it's if it's something people are interested in and it's something that, you know, maybe is a thing, then maybe we'll give that a go. You know, maybe we'll give it a go. Any hope for Nathan Gaucher? Well, if he was a second round pick, I kind of feel like this is kind of where he would be. This is kind of where I think I had him. But first round pick where they took him was just nonsense at the time. I mean, like, could he be a bottom six Will Carrier style physical energy guy? Maybe. Sure. But I don't know. I think the Ducks will be fine one way or the other. The reason I asked about Fractal with Ottawa is because you have their logo on your website with teams I've worked with. Yes, we do. I mean, that's we had a skills coach who does work with them, so we put it up there. The people that our team had worked with in the past. Which reminds me, I probably should update that website. Honestly, thoughts on Brady Wasselin? Brady Wasselin. I haven't seen him yet this year, so I'll take a look. He is on the list. He hasn't played very many games, and aren't they trading him? They did trade him. Yeah, they did. Okay. I'll take a look at him. He'll be on the list. I haven't got a game of him yet, but he'll definitely get a game soon. Probably next week. Who went to the Cup final 8 years ago and doesn't have a job? I don't know what that means. The Leafs don't know how to build a bottom six. I mean, kinda. Yeah, like that's part of it. Quick Will, keep talking about the Leafs. They score whenever you talk bad about them. No, I'm done. How close does McDavid get to Gretzky in points after getting 1,100 tonight? That is a great question. I mean, Connor McDavid, man. Like, is there anyone else like him? On pace for another 100-point season this year. He's 28. Let's say he plays another 8 years. Like, how many points did McDavid or Crosby? Like Gretzky. Oh boy, so Gretzky had 2,857 points. I don't think McDavid, if he's at 1,100 after 10 years, I don't think he's getting anywhere close to 2,800. But do I think like 2,000 is possible? I think it's possible. Like, if he has one more year, let's say next season, where he pops off and scores 140 points, something like 2,000 does not seem that out of the realm of possibility. It's not like he plays a style of play where he's like going to slow down in terms of like physicality and it's going to slow him down. I think he's just a really, really, really good overall. I think he's just a really good overall player that's going to work for a long, long time from here. Like, I mean, 1,800 from here is 700 points over what, 8 years? I think that's possible. Like, he's really, really good. As long as he can stay fleet of foot, I think the sky's the limit. But I don't think 2,800. How the hell do I watch Wiggo Sorensen? I tried to watch that game with you in the Discord, and I feel like there's no way to take anything away meaningful from that league. Well, he's playing at the Five Nations, so there's that. Yeah, he does have a lot of leeway for losing speed before he gets slower. I agree. That's 100%. I agree. Team Scouching is proud to select Keaton Verhoff. Yeah, okay, we'll get there. Adam Novotny shouldn't be that high. Where is he? I don't even know. 20? Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable. I think there are problems with Novotny's game for sure, but I think he's another one of these guys where if he can just give more of a SHIT a little more often, and drive play a little bit better than he does, then I think there's a really good player there. But, I mean, I also fully accept that there's probably quite a few guys that could pass him by the end of the year. It's just at that point in the draft, he's an impressive player, and all the guys after him are all also impressive. Like, it's just kind of a weird mix. It's only October, We're still very early in the year. Ryan Lynn and Xavier are better than Verhoff, unpopular opinion. I mean, Xavier Villeneuve, I could agree with you. Lynn, I don't agree. I don't agree. I don't see it with Ryan Lynn, honestly. He terrifies me. I don't know what type of player he reminds me of, but I don't know. He spooks me. He's a spooky one for me. Do you think Hermanson can pull into the top 5? I'm not going to say it's impossible because I love watching him play when he's really cooking. It's possible. Where do I have him? Yeah, like 19. Like I could reasonably see him. You know what? I probably should have him ahead of Hextall. Like I could reasonably see him ending the year as high as 10. Like a top 10 pick, I think is possible. But that group at the top for me is pretty strong. Preston, Lawrence, Verhoff, McKenna, Stenberg, Villeneuve. I could see Bjork falling out of the top 10 for me, but but Smits and Belchets and Reed and Mutrin and Svensk and Håkansson and Suvanto, like all those guys, I think Hermanson is right there with them. And so, yeah, top 10 maybe, but top 5, I'm not sure. Dvorsky got a goal. Good for him. Right on. Are the Ducks a contender to sign McDavid in 3 years? I mean, why not? I mean, in 3 years, McDavid's just going to extend in Edmonton for $6 million a year, right? He's going to be like, I have enough money in my life, and I just want to win here. I just want to win so bad in Edmonton, and also moving is a hassle, and I just don't want to sell my house. The thing to also keep in mind is, like, think about it this way too. Like, Connor McDavid doesn't have kids, and let's say he does have a kid in like a year. If you're ever going to move your kids as a professional athlete, it's when they're 1 or 2. So we'll see. But I mean, the Ducks, I think it would be a very enticing proposition if I'm the Anaheim Ducks and I go to him and go, hey, how much money do you want to wear a Ducks jersey? Because look at all these toys we have. Look at all these fun toys we have for you to play with. With you, we are a Stanley Cup favorite. And I don't think that's too far off. I don't think that's wrong. It would be a very enticing thing to sell him on. And I don't think Edmonton would be able to compete with that, honestly. I don't think the Ducks would have to be Florida level dominant, honestly. I think the Ducks would just have to be able to pitch it to him the right way. Well, first of all, they'd have to change their jerseys because those orange jerseys are disgusting. I'm sorry. I love you, Ducks fans. I love Anaheim. I love the Ducks. I love them to death, and that's why I care so much, but those jerseys got to go. They are a mess. I pass. I don't like them. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you'll all love them, but I don't. I don't think they're right. I think you go back to the eggplant, it's iconic. It's an iconic look. No one else can even, if there was another team in the National Hockey League who was like, you know what, let's be teal and eggplant, I think the entire league would have every right to be like, you guys are losers. That's only for the Ducks. That's for when the Ducks choose to use it again, and it's only for them. Those 90s Ducks jerseys, man, oh my God, they're the best. So yeah, I don't think they would have to be Florida level dominant, but it would be about marketing it to them. It would be like advertising. You'd have to pitch it in the right way, add a bunch of, we'll pay you a bunch of money, but like, look at all these young guys. Like, I imagine the Ducks are not too far away from a playoff spot of some kind this year or next year. And so it's like, yeah, they're a playoff quality team. They're young, and I don't think they're going to lose a lot of these young guys anytime soon. So McDavid, if he chooses to sign there, like, those young guys will be in their prime. So I think it makes a lot of sense. If I'm Connor McDavid's agent, I would strongly consider it. Like Chicago is another one that I think could make a lot of sense. Hey, you want to put Connor Bedard on Connor McDavid's wing in Chicago with Anton Frondell on the other side or something like that? Yeah, I think I would like to see that happen. Sure. Yeah. That'd be fun, Why not? Where is Kadri best suited after 1,000 games? That's a really great question. I don't know. I think with Nazem Kadri, like, again, similar, like he's a number 3 center on any team, I think worth their weight to win a Stanley Cup. I'd love to see him back in Colorado. I think he'd be a great fit for kind of the gaps in their roster. Send him back to Toronto. The problem with Kadri is the contract, right? He's 35 years old. He just turned 35. He's signed until 2029 at $7 million a year. So if he is anywhere close to the wheels coming off, like you're going to have a boat anchor of a contract on the books for at least a season or two. So, I think the team that gets him has to know that they're signing up for that. But that being said, I don't mean that to say, like, I wouldn't want him on my team. I think there's a lot of teams that could utilize him. And look, the way I see it too is, let's say his contract expires at the end of this year and a team signs him in this market economy to 3 years. A 3-year, $21 million deal as a veteran. It's a lot of money for a 35-year-old turning 36, but like, I could see where they're coming from. I can see the logic there. So yeah, I think there's a lot of teams that could work for him. Colorado is the one that always just keeps popping into my head. I don't know the center depth for a lot of these teams off the top of my head, but like I'm looking at like Detroit. They've got like an Andrew Kopp already there, Marco Kasper. But like throwing a Nazem Kadri in there could be a really interesting addition. The Capitals, maybe. They've got like Strome, Nath. They have probably enough going on there. I don't know. I think there's quite a few teams that for the right price and maybe some retention, they would be okay with adding a Nazem Kadri. And it seems like his name is floating around out there. Am I crazy to think Boisvert is not signing in Chicago? I don't know why you would think that, but maybe. Should Isles fans be concerned that Victor Eklund doesn't have a goal yet? No. If anything, you should be glad that he's getting assists, because last year that was a big issue in his game. But Florida, Kadri in Florida, yes, that would make sense. It would be maybe frustrating for a lot of fans, but yes, I could see Florida being a thing. But yeah, with Victor Eklund, I feel like Eklund is more of the energy forward type, really good one. Goals will come, I don't know how much he's playing or anything like that, but I don't know. No point being concerned this quickly either. It's November, the year after you draft him, or not even the year after you draft him. It's the year you drafted him. Let's see where he's at in 4 years. Like a good investment. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Robertson? Are you a fan of him? Nick Robertson. I think he's awful. I think he's the worst player on the Leafs. They should trade him for a player to be named later that never gets named, and so he can score 40 goals for the Seattle Kraken or something later this year. Yeah, that's how I feel about Nick Robertson. Well documented on this channel. By the way, that's a joke. We love Nick Robertson here. Oh, the Leafs are winning now. Okay, so the Leafs have come back. It is now the Leafs have now jumped from last place in the Eastern Conference to 5th in the Eastern Conference if they win. So good for them. Did you ask about Nick Robertson because he scored the go-ahead goal? No, but he has an assist. Makes sense. It's so funny. I don't think Boisvert is a top 6 center either. Like a third line guy probably. Dude, he's got 5 points in his last 4 games since being scratched. It's so funny how, we scratched this guy. He comes back in the lineup and scores. He must be the guy that only scores after being scratched. It's like maybe you should just ride him and play him, because now look at him, Imagine. Pretty sure Will Eklund didn't have a goal for half a season in his D+1. Yeah, I mean, Eklund also second half was similar to that in his draft year. Like his first half of his year, I think he was point a game in the SHL. And then after Christmas or something, he slowed down quite a bit and the like a third or 2/3 of a point a game, something like that. Like he slowed down. But the point is patience. Patience is a virtue. It's good to practice. Don't worry. I think the floor on Victor Eklund is impossible to ignore and impossible to screw up. Ethan Belchetz has Mario Lemieux aura, do you think? No, I don't think so. Ethan Belchetz is more like... who's Ethan Belchetz like in the NHL? Who is gigantic and... Belchetz like maybe a Voronkov is more up the alley of what I'm thinking for Belchetz, or like a Nichushkin type guy, something like that. Mario Lemieux, not so much. Tuck, yeah, maybe if he ups the physicality in his game more than there is right now, I could see that as well. I don't think he's as good a skater as Tuck, but I could see something in that area. How long would it take for McQueen to adapt to the NCAA after missing pretty much... Oh, yeah, he's Matt Rempe but can play hockey, pretty much, yeah. I don't know. I think that's selling him a little short. How long should it take McQueen to adapt to the NCAA after missing pretty much all his D-0 season? I have no idea, man. I don't know. I did not think I thought he would go back to junior for a year. I would say that this year you kind of just let the whole thing be a wash and see how it goes. I would not be surprised if this year is just an adjustment period and not looking like the most successful year for him anyway. Like he barely played last year. He got hurt multiple times last year. He's not, I don't know. It's just not the right scenario, I don't think. JVR, maybe. I don't think so. I think there's more finesse in his game than JVR. I think JVR was like really smart, net driven, complimentary type guy, and Belchetz is a little different. Yeah, just let McQueen cook for 4 years. I agree. There's no rush on him at all. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I think with JVR, it's like, I think Belchetz has a little bit more like finesse in his game, and he's a little bit more of a playmaker nowadays than he was when he was younger. JVR really did a good job complementing that top unit in Toronto for a really long time. He was never really like the guy. Like, I think they both are really good complementary players, but for different reasons, if that makes sense. And on that note, we're going to call it. I got some chores to do before bedtime tonight. It's after 10 p.m. Again, if you're interested in Scouch Does Finance, let me know. We'll start up a sister channel. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do in that case, but yeah, so you can check that out if you want. Maybe we'll do the Patreon thing all over again. But again, I wouldn't sell you anything. Don't worry, I'm not doing that whole thing, and I'm certainly not certified to provide financial advice in the first place. I'm just a dedicated hobbyist, so to speak. But anyway, we're gonna call it on that. Thanks very much for joining me again. AJ is out for the next little while. I think he said the next 2 weeks he's missing shows. I'm going away at the end of the month. I'm going on vacation. So we're going to have a fun month. I'm going to keep cramming, keep doing all this stuff for these guys. There's a lot of guys I'm looking at to see for the first time still, which I'm excited about. Guys I'm circling back around on again. The second time you guys have provided some good suggestions. So thanks again. We'll see you Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, if there's any good clips from this show, you'll see them on the channel between now and then. Again, if you really want to support us, though, you can directly help us out at scouching.ca. Subscription will get you access to our Discord server, as well as plenty of other cool goodies like database tables and prospect databases and visualization tools and all kinds of stuff. My track data will be up there eventually. And we'll see you Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's hang out. This was fun. Thanks very much. And we'll see you then. Okay, bye.